Hi and welcome to another episode on my channel, where we dive together into the world of automation. In today's video, I will show you one of the most useful features of generative AI, the Categorize activity from the UiPath GenAI Activities package. Our goal is to intelligently classify bank transactions saved in an Excel file, from receiving the file by email, saving it in an orchestrator storage bucket, to automatically assign each transaction to the right category and saving the final file. Sounds interesting? I promise it will be. And if you don't want to miss the next videos, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You will see it's worth it. Okay, let's get started. Before jumping into the tools, let's explain why you would even want to categorize transactions. Imagine you download a transaction statement from your bank every month in Excel. Each line represents an operation: groceries, bill payment, fuel, ATM withdrawal, and so on. Manually going through hundreds of transactions and assigning categories is tedious and error-prone. But this kind of classification is very useful. It helps you quickly analyze where your money goes, prepare budgets, or generate spending reports. Automating this process with GenAI solves all of those issues. Instead of manual clicking through the list and guessing each item, the robot will do it for us in seconds. And we can use the saved time to focus on analyzing the results. What's important is that, thanks to generative AI, our robot doesn't need predefined rules or keyword dictionaries. Agentic automation means we give the robot a form of intelligence. In this case, the ability to understand transaction descriptions and classify them into categories on its own. Kind of like a human would. This is a great example of how AI extends the possibilities of classic RPA. So, our process will consist of several stages. First, we will fetch the email with the attachment. We will use integration service to connect to the email provider. The robot will find the message containing the Excel file. To make the file easily accessible in cloud environment, we will save the attachment into a storage bucket in Orchestrator. A storage bucket is cloud storage in UiPath where we can keep files for our processes. The robot will download the Excel file from the storage bucket and read the list of transactions. We will use the read range activity to turn the spreadsheet into a data table inside the process. This will let us iterate through the transactions and assign categories to each one. This is the core of our solution. We will use the categorize content activity, and we will prepare the input, the transaction description, and define a list of possible categories along with their descriptions. In a loop, the robot will call categorize for each transaction and receive the category back. At the end, we will save the result into a new Excel file, adding a new column with the assigned category. We can then keep that file in the storage bucket or send it back automatically by email. Before we start implementing the main logic, let's make sure we have configured the necessary integration. Let's go to the integration service and confirm that we have working connections for Microsoft Outlook 365 and UiPath GenAI activities. If you're not sure how to do that, check out my previous episodes. I have shown it step by step. The last thing we will need before we begin is a storage bucket. So let's head to Orchestrator. We select our shared folder, go into storage buckets, click add storage bucket, choose create new, and give it a name. Let's call it bank statements. Click add. Done. We now have the storage bucket we need for our process. Now we can start building the automation in StudioWeb. We open StudioWeb, click Create New RPA Workflow, and name the project Transaction Classifier. Okay, we will start by retrieving the Excel file with transactions. We assume this file comes in via email. For this tutorial, I sent the data file to myself with an attachment called Transaction Report. It includes the report date and the .xlsx extension. The file contains columns like transaction, customer name, email, merchant description, amount, and date. Let's go back to StudioWeb. We begin by retrieving the latest message from our Outlook inbox. For that, we use the Get Newest Email activity from the Microsoft 365 package. We've used this before in previous videos, so it should be familiar. We select the inbox as the email folder, and under Additional Properties, we can see that our output variable is called email. This stores the full email message content. With this setup, our robot can now fetch the latest email. Next, we will add an activity to download the email attachment. We add Download Email Attachments from Microsoft 365. In the email message field, we select our email variable. To ensure we're downloading the correct report, the one containing transaction report in the name. We set a file name filter. We can use pattern like transaction report asterisk .xlsx. This way, the robot will only grab files with that naming convention. After expanding the properties, we see the attachment will be saved into the attachment variable, which is an array. Since it's an array, even if there's only one file, we need to loop through it. We add a for each activity and iterate through the attachments. Inside the loop, we add upload storage file to save the attachment into our storage bucket. Now we select our folder, Shared, and pick the storage bucket name we created, Bank Statements. For the file input, we use the current attachments local item. In where to upload, we choose the current attachments local item and full name. Now we have a complete dispatcher style process that downloads the email and saves the attachment in the cloud. Let's move on to the second part. We save the file to the storage bucket to make it easier to work with it in the serverless environment of Studio Web. This is where we debug and run our processes, and it doesn't give us direct access to a file system. That's why we learn to save and retrieve files this way. So let's now download the file back from the storage bucket. We add the download storage file activity outside the loop. We provide the same folder and bucket name. And for the file path, we use the attachment's full name. We choose attachments, and because we have only one file, in brackets we insert 0, that full name. The download file is now stored in the variable file. Next, we use read range from the Excel package to read the contents. We provide the file ID, this variable stores the path to the file that we downloaded from the storage bucket. Set the sheet name to sheet 1 and check add headers. The output is stored in a DataTable variable. Before the next step, we add the new column to store the category. We use add data column. Name it category. Set the type to string and assign it to the data table. Now we are ready to iterate through the rows. We add another for each. We provide data table dot as enumerable. Inside the loop, we use the categorize content activity. In the content field, we provide a transaction description from the current row. In our case, the column is called merchant description. In the categories field, this is the most important. We define the list of available categories and their descriptions. Here we have a category description layout. So we name the categories and then give them a description. In our case, we will create the following categories and their fields: food, travel, utilities, shopping, entertainment, health, transportation, and other. This will be our categories and their descriptions. Let's use them. Click the Add button. Let me copy this, I won't rewrite it. Okay, the categories have now been defined. We can click the Save. In the description of content field, we can write something like financial assistant helping a bank classify customer transactions. After expanding the properties, the main result is content category, which is the selected category. The model returns a single best fit result. It all happens behind the scenes, and we get a ready answer. A great example of a robot gaining natural understanding through AI. Now, we want to write this selected category back into our data table. Remember that column we added earlier? Now we use it. Inside the loop after categorize, we add assign. Let's use the option to assign directly to the data table. And we enter current data row category. Click the Save button. Next, using setValue, we assign the value that we receive from our categorize activity, which is content category. To be sure, we can also add a logging step. For example, a log message activity inside the panel that will print out the transaction name and the category it was classified into. Let's use log message then. Click the Save button. After exiting the for each loop, our table should be fully populated. The original transaction data plus a new column with the category for each item. Now, we'd like to pass these results to the user, meaning save them in an Excel sheet. So let's use an activity from the Excel package again. Specifically write range pointing to our file. So write range. Next, we indicate our file. The sheet name, and we point to our data table. In this activity, we indicated our file which we previously downloaded from the storage bucket. Actually, by downloading it this way, it gets saved in a temporary location because the Studio Web process runs in a sandbox environment. We don't have physical access to the disk. But since we've already downloaded the file and it exists, we don't need to create a new one. We can actually reuse it by overwriting it with this new category column that we just implemented. Alright, We now have basically one last step left, and we'd like to send the file we prepared this way simply by email. It will be enriched with this additional category column. We will do this in the standard way: send email activity. In the attachment field, let's use our file variable. At this point, the main process flow is complete. We have an automation that from start to finish downloaded an email, extracted the Excel file, used AI to classify each item, save the result in a file and send it to the user. Great! This is a big step combining many elements of the UiPath platform simultaneously. Time for testing, so let's run our process and check the results. Click Test on Cloud. In the log, we can see how transactions are being categorized. The process finished. Let's check my inbox. We received the email. Let's open the file. Everything looks great. The robot did what we expected and new category column was added. For example, Walmart Supercenter was categorized as shopping, Starbucks as food, and a gas station as transportation. As you can see, the classification works very well. This automation brings real benefits. What used to be time-consuming is now instant. The user gets a clean, categorized expense report. Also notice how flexible this GenAI approach is. Without writing a single line of code, we achieved a classification system that in classic RPA would require maintaining large keyword dictionaries. Here, all that is handled by the trained language model. This shows the power of agentic automation. The robot becomes smarter and more independent. I hope this episode showed you how to use GenAI in practical, real-world data tasks. Thanks to Categorize, we gave the robot a kind of intuition for understanding text. And all this without training our own machine learning model. We used built-in intelligence available through UiPath AI services integrated in just a few clicks. If you followed along, congratulations! You now have a working prototype of automated transaction categorization. I encourage you to experiment. Try different categories, test how the model reacts to various descriptions, add your own improvements. It's the best way to learn both the possibilities and limitations of these tools. Thanks a lot for watching and building this automation with me. I hope it was a valuable experience. If you have questions or ideas, share them in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again and see you in the next episode. Take care and goodbye!